Hello and welcome to Unacademy. Current affairs is an important component of the civil services preparation. It is relevant for all the three stages of the exam: prelims, mains, and the personality test. But please do not consider current affairs as a separate subject. Do not assume current affairs as a standalone subject such as polity, geography, history, so on and so forth. There is polity-based current affairs, economy-based current affairs, environment, science and tech-based current affairs. Current affairs is all-encompassing, which means when you read current affairs, when you follow current affairs, you have to link it with the static portion of your syllabus. How to do that? That's exactly what we are going to cover in this video. But before we start, I have an important announcement to make. On the 5th and 6th of July, Unacademy is holding Unacademy Summit 2025, where your educators, as well as the serving and retired bureaucrats and diplomats, would be conducting special classes on the Unacademy app. If you are a beginner who has just started civil services preparation, or you are in the process of starting your civil services preparation, then please consider attending these special classes. And I'm sure once you attend these classes, you will gain utmost clarity about the syllabus, the PYQs, the right strategy to follow to ace the civil services exam in 2026 or beyond. This is going to be a free initiative. The link to register for Unacademy Summit is provided in the video description. Please register and we will see you on the 5th and 6th of July 2025. Now let's understand what we are going to cover today. What are the sources for current affairs? Let's spend a few minutes on the sources and then I will explain how to link current affairs with the static portion of the syllabus. Ideally, you will have to read newspapers. Newspapers are the most important sources of current affairs for your examination. But please do not inflate your sources. Limit your sources. Revise. Focus on revision. How? Maybe you can read the Hindu newspaper. If not the Hindu, you can consider the Indian Express. Now, please listen to me carefully. If you are someone who is fully committed to the civil services preparation, you are not doing any job, you are not going to the college, you are full-fledged preparing for this examination, I would urge you to read both the Hindu as well as the Indian Express. But if you are a working professional or if you are doing graduation or post-graduation, then please consider at least one of these newspapers. But read newspapers on your own. There is no substitute to your own reading of the newspaper. Please do not rely on someone else. Read newspaper. Make notes as well. And I will tell you today, I will demonstrate how these notes are to be made. Read newspaper, make notes. Every 15 days revise and link it with the static portion of your syllabus. And I promise you, you will ace this examination. As a reference, you can also follow a monthly current affairs magazine released by coaching institutes. Any coaching institute for that matter. I will not force you to read Unacademy monthly current affairs magazine. Any monthly current affairs magazine of your choice. Read newspaper, make notes, supplement it with the monthly current affairs magazine, make it as your reference point and you're done. But how? If you read newspapers on your own, which means not only it is going to help you in your CSAT comprehension, but it is going to be immensely helpful for your mains answer writing. Because then you will be in a much better position to understand how to structure the answer, how to incorporate important points, how to analyze a particular question from the mains perspective and write answers. So make your own notes, read the newspaper, but if you have paucity of time, then there are other alternatives available. Other alternatives, maybe you can follow our YouTube channel where every morning at 10 o'clock we conduct the analysis of the daily newspaper, the Hindu newspaper. Follow it, but then link it with the monthly current affairs magazine. But how do you link current affairs with the static portion of the syllabus? For that, let me give you few examples. First, I will give you lots and lots of examples from the mains examination and then the prelims examination. Let's look at this question on your screen. What is the technology being employed for electronic toll collection on highways? What are its advantages and limitations? What are the proposed changes that will make this process seamless? Would this transition carry any potential hazards? Now, this is a question which was asked in the mains examination last year, because there was a proposal that maybe we will use satellite-based toll collection on the highways. That's going to save a lot of time, but there are some potential hazards as well. When you read this in a newspaper, you're making notes as well. Same question appears in your exam, which means you will have ready-made content available for answer writing. This is related to science and technology. Science and technology is an important aspect of your syllabus. When you read newspaper, when you make notes from whatever you have read in the newspaper, link it with the static portion and ultimately problem solved. Not just that, let's take another example. Explain the role of millets for ensuring health and nutritional security in India. G20 summit was conducted and held in India in 2023 in New Delhi. On the menu were dishes made from millets. The government was extensively and aggressively promoting millets. Most of the civil services aspirants thought that this topic is not relevant for the exam. But how can millets ensure healthy and nutritionally secure India? This can be an important part of your exam, and this question was asked in the mains examination. So read newspapers and see if it is somewhere related to your civil services syllabus, whether GS1, whether GS2, whether GS3, whether GS4, or your optional subject, and you're done. For example, we saw the stampede in Bengaluru after the Royal Challengers Bengaluru won the Indian Premier League. Now, this can be an important case study for your GS paper 4 as well. Assume you are a bureaucrat, a civil servant. How would you handle crowd management? How would you control the crowd? How would you ensure that stampedes do not result in the loss of lives? So incorporate the learnings from your newspaper reading, make notes, and you will have the content ready-made available for your GS paper 4 answer. That's how you link it with the syllabus. Few more examples. Discuss the geopolitical and geostrategic importance of Maldives. Now, we saw a couple of years ago when Mr. Muizu became the head of the government of Maldives, and then the relationship between India and Maldives deteriorated. Some racist slurs were hurled at our Prime Minister by some ministers in the Maldives government, and because of that, there was a backlash. Backlash when some of the companies in India, travel companies in India, stopped booking tickets to Maldives. If this is the topic in the news, you will have to link it with your syllabus. Syllabus talks about in GS paper 2, India and its neighborhood. In our neighborhood, we have Maldives. What is the geopolitical and geostrategic importance of Maldives? You would have read this in the newspaper. If you are making notes, you have 4 or 5 very important points readily available regarding the relationship between India and Maldives. You are ready for the mains examination. So do not treat current affairs as if it is a standalone subject and we have to cover it separately. Read newspaper and then link this with your static syllabus. See where it is linked. For example, 2014 or 15, Barack Obama visited Cuba, and then the diplomatic relations between United States and Cuba got restarted. What was the point? What was the trigger which led to the fallout of diplomatic relations between Cuba and United States? One reason was the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. This question was asked in your world history, GS paper 1 in 2015 mains examination. Why? It is current affairs linked to your static syllabus. So even if it is geography, earthquake, hurricanes, tsunamis, these things, these developments, these phenomena are in the news. Link it with your static syllabus and you will have the content available. You will be in a position to anticipate questions asked in the examination. One more example. Examine the need for electoral reforms as suggested by various committees with particular reference to one nation, one election. When Ramnath Kovind committee, the former president of India, when this committee was set up by the government to explore the possibilities, how we can implement one nation, one election, a very important electoral reforms in India. This was in the news. And the same question was asked in the mains examination last year. Which means current affairs plays a very important role, not just in prelims, but also in the mains examination. In fact, GS paper 2 and GS paper 3 for mains examination is all dominated by current affairs. I'll give you one more example. The West is fostering India as an alternative to reduce dependence on China's supply chain and as a strategic ally. Now we see the rising China, and China is also expansionist in its ideology. It wants to expand its territory. Now to counter the rising influence of China in the Pacific Ocean, in the South Chinese Sea, United States and other Western powers, they are now courting India so that India can be viewed as a strong opponent to China in its rising influence in the neighborhood. That is why we have seen entities such as Quad. The meeting was conducted recently where the Quad has now issued a statement criticizing the Pahalgam attack and fostering a relationship with India where it has criticized cross-border terrorism, which means a reference to Pakistan. So Quad comprises of India, Australia, Japan, and United States. This grouping, when was it established? Informally when? Formally when? Is it a military alliance? What sort of an alliance is it? Are they categorical in stating that the purpose of Quad is to counter the Chinese influence? That is something that you will have to keep in mind. So when you read Quad, when you read Shanghai Cooperation Organization or BRICS or SAARC or BIMSTEC, these organizations, you will have to first look at the facts. When this organization was established, is there a charter which has established this organization? What is the purpose of this organization? Who are the members of this organization? Who are the latest addition to these organizations? These are facts, can be important for your prelims examination. But analysis of these organizations, whether they have been successful in achieving the objective for which they were set up, established, that can be relevant for your mains examination. So whether it is polity, geography, even history, art and culture. For example, we saw a question in one of the prelims examination where a question was asked on Chausat Yogini temple, which is in Morena in Madhya Pradesh. Why this question was asked? Because the old parliament was being replaced with a new parliament. A new parliament building was being constructed. And the design and the architecture of the old parliament, the circular in shape, resembled the Chausat Yogini temple of Madhya Pradesh. That is why this question was asked. So when you read newspaper articles, you just don't need to read and understand that issue. You will have to link it with the static portion of the syllabus. And once you're able to do that, once you're able to link current affairs with the static portion, you are ready for the examination. Few more examples. For example, last year a question on ethics committee was asked in your prelims examination. Now I'm giving you examples from the prelims examination. Why this question was asked? Because Honorable Member of the Parliament, Mahua Moitra, she was expelled from the Lok Sabha based on the recommendations of the Ethics Committee because there were some allegations against Mahua Moitra. exact statements were mentioned in the Indian Express. Exact statements. So if you're reading this newspaper article, you need to understand that it is related to Parliament and its committees. So understand these parliamentary committees, and you will be in a position to anticipate the question that can be asked in the examination. Similarly, delimitation was in the news. A simple question was asked. How many delimitation commissions have been constituted by the Government of India till December 2023? 4 is the right answer. Which means this delimitation topic, if it is in the news, you will have to understand the static portion related to delimitation. And once you're able to link the two, you are ready for the examination. Similarly, consider the following statements. This was the question I think asked in 2017. At that time, the Attorney General for India was given an extension by the Government of India. If Attorney General is in the news, this is current affairs, but link it to Attorney General as a topic of Union Executive, which is part of your polity syllabus. And then understand everything related to Attorney General. And this question was asked in the examination. One more example. When we look at prelims and mains, I have been repeating this ad nauseum that prelims is about two things: facts and concepts. UPSC will judge you whether you have the factual knowledge, whether you have the conceptual clarity. And questions around facts and concepts would be asked in your prelims examination. What about means? UPSC will ask you to analyze, elaborate, whatever you have studied, whatever you have discussed for prelims or mains examination. So prelims is about facts and concepts. Mains is about elaboration and analysis. Why are we discussing this? For current affairs, please ensure that you have separate notebooks for every subject, which means polity, economics, geography, history, science and tech, environment, internal security, disaster management, international relations. For every subject which is mentioned in your syllabus, have separate notebooks. And then make notes. Notes, for example, Governor of Tamil Nadu was in the controversy, is always in the controversy. And then a historic judgment was delivered by the Supreme Court, where Supreme Court spoke of deemed assent. What is this deemed assent? That there are 10 bills which have been passed by the Legislative Assembly of Tamil Nadu, sent to the governor for assent. The governor is sitting on these bills. The governor is not assenting these bills. The governor has reserved some of these bills for the consideration of the president. And then Supreme Court said, since there is an inordinate delay, which is not constitutional, we will impose time limit within which the governor will have to give the assent. And since there has been an inordinate delay when it comes to these 10 specific bills, these 10 bills are deemed to have been passed. For the first time in the history of independent India, laws were implemented in Tamil Nadu, in a state in India, without the explicit assent signature of the governor of that state, who is the constitutional head of the state. If this topic is in the news, then exactly how do you make notes of this particular topic? That is something that we need to understand today. If governor is in the news, first you need to read the office of governor from your class notes or from Lakshmikant. Who is a governor? What are the qualifications required for someone in order to be appointed as the governor of a state? What is the tenure of the office of governor? How the governor can be removed from his office? Then what are the powers available with the governor? All these things are mentioned in Lakshmikant. You don't have to make notes of Lakshmikant. Underline these points in Lakshmikant and you're done. But then what about current affairs related to this? That is why I told you, for every subject, spare a separate notebook for every subject and follow, read, understand, make note of current affairs related to that subject. Which means in your notebook, you will mention this topic governor, and whatever updates will happen on this office of governor, which you will come to know through newspapers, make note of it. So that tomorrow when you will have to revise the office of governor, when you have to revise state executive, you will revise from Lakshmikant and your class notes plus current affairs notebook. Here you will have to discuss Article 142. Because Supreme Court used Article 142, which talks about complete justice, and said these 10 bills are deemed to have been passed. So you have to mention in your notebook that in this particular case, Article 142 was used. Then in various other cases, Article 142 was used. For example, recently there was a development where a girl child of 14 years age, she married a boy of more than 20 years of age. This is a classic example of POCSO, Protection of Children from the Sexual Offences Act. And a local court, the trial court, had sentenced this man to life imprisonment. Then the High Court acquitted this man. Matter went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said High Court was wrong in acquitting this man because the law is clear. Because a girl child less than the age of 18 cannot give consent to a sexual relationship. So if she has not given the consent, which means it is a rape. But then Supreme Court said, what about this girl? And now she is also a mother of a girl child. It is going to be very difficult for this lady now to live her life if the husband is in the jail, serving life imprisonment. And in this case, Supreme Court invoked Article 142 and acquitted this man. So what are the instances where Article 142 has been used? Mention those instances, because if a question on Article 142 is asked in the examination, you can cite some of these examples. Because Article 142 has been viewed as a nuclear missile by the Honorable Vice President. Similarly, what did the Supreme Court say on the powers of the governor, whether it is related to Tamil Nadu or whether it is related to Punjab? Because in Punjab case also, there was a tussle between the Chief Minister and Punjab governor. When you have a one-stop destination for all current affairs related to the office of governor in one notebook, it becomes easy for you to revise. Not just revise, it becomes easy for you to write a better cogent answer in your mains examination. Because while you're writing answers in the mains examination, during the examination hall, you will recall that notebook, that particular page or those pages where content related to the office of governor is mentioned. That is why note making is very important. You may think that it is time waste, but it is time saved. Because when you're making notes, you're basically revising as well. When you're making notes, you're practicing answer writing as well. Because when you make notes, you will ensure that you're not writing irrelevant statements, irrelevant lines. You're only writing to the point relevant topics, relevant content related to this topic. And that's exactly what you have to do in the mains examination. Write to the point answers. Don't beat around the bush. Long story short, if current affairs is one of the most important areas, components of your civil services preparation, students often confuse current affairs to be a standalone subject just like other subjects. Don't do that, because current affairs has to be linked with the static portion of your syllabus. Yes, there have been instances where strict current affairs has been asked, like who won the Kho championship, what was the score of the women's team and the men's team. This can be viewed as a purely current affairs topic, a current affairs question. Or if a question on World Test Championship is asked in the prelims examination, you can say it's a purely current affairs topic, current affairs question. Or if a question related to books and authors are asked in the examination, it's a purely current affairs topic. But please understand, such questions are very rare in this examination. And that too only for the prelims examination. For everything else, your current affairs is linked with the static portion of the syllabus. For example, if Red Sea was in the news because one terror group, Houthis, decided to block Red Sea, which is an important trade route, where now United States is also involved. UPSC asked a question on Red Sea, but not in a way, where is Red Sea situated? UPSC asked this question related to geography. Red Sea gets all of its water from precipitation. Whether that is correct or incorrect, that statement was asked in the examination. So look at current affairs developments, whether it is related to polity, whether it is related to society in the sense COVID-19, then lockdown was imposed, and then lockdown resulted in work from home, right? Work from home. Question was asked in the mains examination, evaluate the scope and significance of work from home. How has it affected the family relationship? This is a current affairs topic related to GS paper 1, which deals with Society of India. Similarly, we saw how cryptos were in the news. A simple question was asked in the mains examination. What do you understand by cryptocurrency? Is it affecting the global economy? Is it affecting India as well? Which means in these current affairs type questions, current affairs topics, what you should do, once you are done with the day's engagement, whatever you have set out as your timetable, once you've achieved it, and then you are going for sleep, before you go to sleep, recall, close your eyes and recall for the next 15-20 minutes exactly what you studied during the day. And then also anticipate what sort of questions can be asked in this examination. And how can you anticipate that? If you have a thorough understanding of PYQs. Take a look at the PYQs. From 2013 onwards, you will understand the pattern. You will understand why UPSC is asking certain questions and what is the context behind it. How these questions are asked. Are these questions mostly factual or analytical? How deep we have to dig into these questions. You will gain utmost clarity by following PYQs. And once you have followed the PYQs, then you will be in a position to brainstorm as well. Tomorrow, what sort of question can be asked when I am writing this exam in 2026, when I am writing this exam in 2027? Current affairs is a very, very important component of your civil services preparation. Do not ignore this. But to follow current affairs, to master current affairs, first thing I tell you, I request you, please do not proliferate your sources. Don't read multiple newspapers, multiple magazines of coaching institutes. Don't do that. Limit. One newspaper, make notes. For reference, use a monthly current affairs magazine of any coaching institute. Ideally, you should make your own notes. But if you can't make notes, then rely on monthly current affairs magazine. But you should ideally make your own notes. How to make notes? For that, have separate different copies, different notebooks for different subjects of your syllabus. So that once you're revising economy, you can revise economy from your class notes or from a reference books plus the current affairs notes that you have made. Similarly, when you're revising international relations is all about current affairs. Virus of conflict is affecting the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This question was asked in the mains examination, and you would be in a much better position to answer this question if you have followed current affairs. So current affairs is a very, very important component. But for that, read newspapers, make notes, supplement it with monthly current affairs magazine, and then keep revising these current affairs notes every 15 days. Sir, how is it possible? This is July. So July 1st to July 15, revise. Then July 15 to July 30, revise again. And then this July month current affairs, revise in August, then stop. Then in November, go back to July current affairs. Then in March, go back to July current affairs and use this process continuously, which means before your examination, you should have thoroughly revised current affairs at least 4 times. And if you have done that, you're all set for the examination. If you have any questions related to your current affairs preparation, current affairs strategy, please let me know in the comment section, and I would be more than happy to answer all your queries personally. Thank you for watching. All the best. Let's crack it.